Hi, welcome to Jenny Oliver's kitchen. This is cooked in the time of a pandemic, but be assured that all COVID restrictions have been observed and all procedures are safe. You will not catch COVID from doing this recipe. I've put out on the cutting board the ingredients that I'm going to use. I have 2 leeks. The recipe says 3 medium leeks, but I've got 2 large leeks. I've got 100 grams of nuts. I've got some milk. I'm using Jersey milk because I'm cutting down on the butter, so there will be some richness in the milk. I've got a couple of extra ingredients. I've got some mustard and I've got some preserved lemons, which I may add during the procedure. I've got some mixed herbs. I've got 3 slices of wholemeal bread from the freezer, 100 grams of cheese, and I've got some flour. And from that, I'm going to make creamy leek croustade. The first instruction in the recipe is put the breadcrumbs in a basin, rub in the butter. So the first thing I would do is make my breadcrumbs. I've got 3 slices of wholemeal bread from the freezer. I'm now going to put those into the food processor, and I'm going to grind them up into breadcrumbs. And there we have the breadcrumbs. I'm now going to do the same thing with the nuts. I'm going to put them into the goblet and I'm going to chop them. There are my chopped nuts, which I'm now going to add to the breadcrumbs. Stage of the recipe. The next stage of the recipe asks you to rub in flour, which I'm not going to do because I find it makes it too claggy. So I'm going to add some sunflower oil, just a dash, to bring it all together. And then into that I'm going to add my cheese, which I have grated. Stir that in, just so that it's all mixed up, it's not sticking together. So, and some herbs. In my capacity to look after the planet, I tend to use up whatever I've got. These are herbes de Provence, which I found in somebody's house. And it's a mixture of herbs. It's a mixture of thyme, marjoram, oregano and rosemary. But obviously you can add in whatever you fancy. There we are. So that's ready for the base. Now again, I'm doing a variation of the recipe. The recipe says put the mixture in the base of the tin. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half of it into the base. This recipe makes 6, so I'm going to make 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half of the mixture in the base, press it down, and I'm going to keep the other half of the mixture for the top. So rather than a base with leek on top and then some breadcrumbs, this is going to be more like a sandwich, and I think it works better this way. Right, so there are the 2 bases. I've heated the oven to 200 degrees centigrade. They're going to go into the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. So the next stage is going to be to deal with the leeks and to make the leek sauce to go on top of the croustade. I've got 2 leeks here. I'm now going to wash them, I'm going to chop them up, and then I'm going to saute. Right, I am now going to use butter for this stage, and the recipe asks for 50 grams of butter, so that's going to be about 1/5 of a pack. So I will weigh the butter. That weighs 51. I'm going to put that into the pan and warm it up. I'm heating this over a medium heat because I don't want the butter to catch. And I will just put a dash of oil in. I'm going to add the leeks, and I'm going to sweat them for quite a long time. The recipe says 5 minutes, but I may well leave them for 10-15 minutes while the base cooks, because I think the longer you sweat them gently, the more flavour you get out of the leeks. Right, they're going to go in there now. Going to mix that in. And then I'm going to turn it down to a low heat, and I'm going to leave the leeks to sweat for about 15 minutes. I'm going to put a cover on and turn the heat right down low. And that's going to wait for about 15 minutes, which is about as long as the base will take to cook. Right, we've had 15 minutes, and there are the 2 bases taken out of the oven. And there are the leeks, which have now sweated down. The next stage is to add the flour to the cooked leeks and to stir that in and let that absorb the liquid in the leeks. And now I'm going to slowly add half a pint of milk to the mixture, stirring it so that the flour absorbs the milk, and you've got your creamy leek filling. I'm just going to give that a couple of minutes to cook through. I'm now going to add some salt, about half a teaspoon, and some pepper. And I'm now going to think about the flavourings that go with it. When we last had this, Andrew said that he thought it was quite bland. So I'm going to add 2 more ingredients. I'm just going to add a pinch of dried mustard, and I'm going to add a chopped preserved lemon. I just watched through the first session, and all I could think of is, what on earth is Ro doing in my kitchen cooking? Because this is experimental, I'm not going to put very much preserved lemon in. We'll see how it is, and if it's nice, I'll put it in next time. So that's going to go into the leek mixture, and now we're ready to plate up. So I'm going to spoon the mixture over the base. Half in this tray and half in the tray. As you can see, the base is now quite firm. I definitely think that there's quite a bit of interesting experimenting to be done with the leek layer. I think it does need something to zing it up. I'm going to put the other half of the breadcrumb mixture on top. And now these need baking in a 180 degrees Celsius oven for 20 minutes. Good evening. The leek croustade's now been in the oven 180 degrees for 20 minutes, so I'm going to take it out now. I'm going to serve it. And what does that taste like?
Delicious.